But today, I just poked myself in the eye with my brush. Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. First things first, I want to say thank you for all of your support on my first video. It was super nerve-wracking to put it up, but I'm so glad so many of you enjoyed it, and frankly I really enjoyed it, so I'm going to keep working on bringing some fun beauty content for you all. Today I'm showing you how to get this makeup look. This is my everyday makeup that I wear whenever I'm seeing clients at work. I take you through step by step and all the products that I use and why I like them, so I hope you enjoy the video. I have a coffee cup the size of my head. I brought this the other day. Oh, it's got a hair on it. This was a purchase that I didn't need to make, but I did, and I'm glad I did, and it is the size of my head and it has peaches on it and I love it. It is super early in the morning, so excuse me if my voice is a little bit cracky, is a little bit grindy. That's why I haven't done any talking this morning. I literally rolled out of bed and threw a shirt on to film this video. So let's go. I do want to preface this video with two things. First thing is, for those of you who don't know, I work in construction, so my days can be very, very long. I can put my makeup on at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and be coming home at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and I kind of want that to last as long as possible throughout the day. I normally jump in between sites, so I'm on the go quite a lot, and a lot of my sites generally, for the majority of them, won't have active air conditioning, especially in summer in Oz. So when I'm doing my makeup and I'm doing makeup like this, I'm wanting it to lock in and stay for a really long time. So if you notice I'm putting a lot of powder over the top, that is probably why. The second thing I wanted to say is also, this is not what I do absolutely every single day. Most days I just roll out of bed, I put on some mascara, maybe a little bit of eyeshadow, and I walk out the door. That's about it. First thing I'm gonna do is clip my hair back. I got these clips off Amazon the other day. I really like them. I'll link them in the down bar below. Got a grippy rubber so that they don't slide out of your hair. All I have on my face at the moment is moisturizer. This is just bare, clean skin this morning. What I'm going to start with is priming. So this is the NYX Studio Perfect Photo Loving Primer. This is a very silicone based primer. If you're not a fan of silicone based primers, then you probably won't like this. I really like them for the center of my face. I have a lot of pores in these areas here, and I find this does like a pretty good job of smoothing out the pores and the textures in my skin. I apply just a small amount, just about a pea size, to the entirety of my face. Nothing too crazy. And blend that in. Does anyone else, the moment you touch your face, it goes like really red? Like my skin just goes super red the moment I touch my face. It's really funny. It'll calm down in a couple of seconds, but I just think it's hilarious. The foundation I've been loving and using for about the last year is the Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless foundation. I stumbled on this from the drugstore because a lot of people were recommending it. I saw a lot of really good reviews online, and I decided to try it for myself, and I've been enjoying it. So I don't like wearing super expensive stuff for my day-to-day. I just find, not that it's a waste, but you can find just as good stuff from Priceline or the drugstore or Chemist Warehouse or anywhere like that that will work just as well, and you're obviously not spending, in here in Oz, about $50 to $60 on a foundation, which is just exorbitant in my opinion. So I take, the only thing I don't like about this product is that it doesn't have a pump, so I have to take it on my finger and then spread it in bits on my face just until I get enough that I think it's going to cover as well as possible. And then this is the Stila blending sponge. I don't mind this. I think it's okay. I only really got it because I went into Mecca and they don't stock beauty blenders, and this was what the girl gave me that she thought was the next best thing. It's quite a stiff sponge, so when you clean it you really have to get in there because it does hold a fair bit of product, but aside from that, it's fine. It works, it does the job. It blends my makeup out, I feel like, totally fine. So I'm not super worried about it. I do have one of the ColourPop blending sponges on its way to me at the moment, so I'll be really interested to see how that one compares to this one. And then I just blend all that out in a patting motion. Go back in and add more product as I kind of need it. But I'm normally pretty good at eyeballing it. I'd say this is a medium coverage foundation. I definitely wouldn't say that it's full coverage. Definitely wouldn't be my choice for a full coverage foundation. Like if you wanted a super, super glam, flawless look, I have other foundations that I prefer to use in that instance. Try to go back in and I build it up in areas that I feel need a little bit more coverage. I will add concealer, so we obviously don't want to go too heavy on the foundation before we apply concealer. And as always, making sure that you bring anything I do on my face, I like to kind of bring down my neck. Just means you get a seamless blend on everything. I'm pretty happy with that. Looks pretty good. It does have a bit of like a satiny finish for being matte and poreless, but it also will dry down quite a bit from here, but it won't lose all of that shine, at least in my experience with the product. The concealer I like to use is the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind Concealer. This has been around for a really long time. I've probably used the same concealer for about 5 or 6 years now. I just love it. It works. It's inexpensive. It doesn't crease really badly on me. I have a lot of fine lines under my eyes. I find this product doesn't crease as long as I set it. If I don't set it, then I find it'll crease. Otherwise, I really like this product. So I go in, I apply a bit under my eyes. I still do the little triangle method. I know that there's a lot of things at the moment saying like maybe don't do the triangle method. This is just what works for me. So I apply the concealer under my eyes. I get it up right in the corner. I get very dark just in here in the inner tear duct of my eyes, so I try and focus it on there as well. And then I apply it to kind of my chin because I have a lot of redness. And the other place I like to apply it is around in the creases of my nose because I get very red there as well. Once it's on, take the same sponge and I just blend it out. I have lots of Christmas shopping to do today, so I am getting this done early. By lots, I mean I have to go to the major shopping center and I really don't want to because I know that it's going to be packed, but luckily it is a Wednesday, so hopefully it won't be so bad 2 weeks out from Christmas. I will say that if I do have any kind of prominent acne spots or redness that's showing through, I use a little bit of a heavier concealer. This is the Revlon Photo Ready Concealer. This is super creamy, but it is really thick, so it's going to give you a lot of coverage if there's any like major problem areas. Otherwise, I'm pretty happy with how the Instant Age Rewind works for like a day-to-day basis. Next step is powder. I don't bake. I find baking way too heavy under my eyes. I find that if I do bake, or if I've tried to bake in the past, it really settles into the fine lines under my eyes, and that's just not what I want to look like, is creasy and crepey. So as much as it might look nice on camera, it's definitely not something that I would do day to day. Until this year, I'd never really used loose powder. I don't know why, and I decided to jump in and try it. I grabbed the Revolution Loose Baking Powder. It's baking powder, but we don't really bake around here, in the color Lace, and I have been loving it. And for how inexpensive this powder is, I just can't believe how good it is. It's super fine milled. It's a really, really good color for my skin. It doesn't throw any cast and it doesn't make me look powdery either. I'm really, really happy with it. The only thing with this is the packaging. It's got such a tiny lid that normally with powders you would put the powder in the lid obviously to then stick your brush in it. But because the lid's so tiny, I find it really hard to get an even coating on my brush. So I've been using this little blush palette that I've got, and I've just been dumping out some of the powder on top of it, and then using a little brush like this just to apply it under my eyes, because I just find it so much easier. So I just get a little bit of that on my brush, a pretty even coating, nothing too crazy because I don't want it to like stick into the concealer and make it look crepey. And then I just apply that till I'm happy with it. I'll normally take the leftover of the powder and I'll put it around my face as well, because I don't want to waste anything. And also I do think this is a really nice powder. It just instantly gives my face like a blurring and smoothing effect as well, which I really like. I do find you can over apply it and it can make your under eyes look crepey. So I guess if you do have a real big issue with that, just maybe be careful with how much of this powder you apply. Other than that, I would definitely recommend this to try. It is super matte as well, so if you're not a huge fan of like matte powders, maybe not for you, but for me, this is exactly what I want to lock in my makeup for a really long time, or a very long day on site and seeing clients. I have a fair bit of that powder left, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a big fluffy brush and I'm going to just stamp that over the rest of my face to set it. Again, I like really matte makeup. My skin, I find, almost like settles in to my makeup throughout the day. And what I mean by that is my oils, the natural oils my skin produces start coming through and it really settles in and looks glowy by the end of the day. If I'm doing it this way, I may look a little bit matte and like a little bit powdery in the morning first thing, but it means that by the end of the day, I'm not having to touch up, I'm not having to do anything with my makeup. I know that it's gonna stay, I know it's not going anywhere, and it does look really flawless by the afternoon. Next step for me is brows. I take the spoolie on the back of my NYX brow pencil and I brush my eyebrow hairs the way I want them. They can be quite unruly. I do have really thick eyebrows and thick eyebrow hairs, so the more we can tame those, the better. I use the classic Anastasia Dip Brow. I've kind of fallen out of love with this product over the years. However, I still want to use it up. I still just want to get rid of it out of my collection, and then I'll consider just sticking with pencils or trying a few different other products. I find that there's days that this can just look really heavy on my brows, and I'm leaning a little bit away from having the super heavy dark brows and into something a little bit more fluffy. But for the moment, this is what I'm using. It works. I've just got to be really careful with a light hand. Mine is also super old and dried out. You can see in there how kind of like dried out and old that is. I don't know why I'm showing you this, but it's gross. What I do is I spray a little bit of setting spray in the cap of the brow pomade, and then I use that to kind of wet the product with my brush. It's just how I have to do it now that obviously it's dried out, and I don't want to throw it out. These aren't super cheap, and even though I've had it for ages and got a good use out of it, there's something satisfying about using up products. So we're gonna just soldier on and I'm gonna use this product up. If you like Anastasia Dip Brow, more power to you, but yeah, I'm just kind of leaning away from doing full-on brows at the moment. So I start normally somewhere in the middle, that way if I do have a lot of product on my brush, it can kind of go and chill out in the hairs in the middle of my brow. They can have a nice little party. It's all a good time. And then I go down to the tail and I try and just draw one long flick in the tail, and then I take whatever's on the brush and very lightly just bring it through the front of my brow. It looks super dark and super scary on camera compared to my other brow. Once I've got the rest of my face on, it really doesn't look so intimidating. I'll also sometimes take like my pinky finger or my ring finger and I'll just dot out the front of my brow like that, just to soften that front part. I struggle with brows. Like some girls get these beautiful like brush hair brows and they get like, you know, they look really fluffy and gorgeous. I really struggle to do that because my brows are so thick. and the brow hairs themselves refuse to lay any other way than down. So I normally just go with the wind and give in to having a super thick brow and a super defined brow rather than like a fluffy one. But I find a pencil gives me a little bit more of that look, being able to do brow strokes and like faux hair strokes. But yeah, using up the Anastasia Dip Brow. I really want to do another video talking about my project pan that I'm doing at the moment and talking about, I guess, like the consumerism aspect of the beauty industry, and just over the years how much I've learnt about how long it takes to use up beauty products, because I find a lot of people have these massive collections, and you know, if it's your job and what you do for YouTube, it's a little bit different, or if you're a blogger or you know whatever, I find it's a little bit different, or a massive makeup collector, sure, but I find even like the average person has so much makeup that just expires and goes to waste. So it's been something I've focused on over the last couple of years, is trying to downsize my collection a little bit, or just be really careful and cautious with the stuff that I'm buying, just to not, I guess, waste my money. Like there's so much wastage, and getting use out of products, and especially stuff like this where it's almost done, I may as well just power on through and use it. So if you want to see that video, leave some comments in the down bar below. I'd love to do it for you. I'd love to talk about it. It's something I'm really passionate about. So let me know. It's been about 3 hours since I was last sitting in front of this camera because my battery died. So if everything looks a little bit different, that's why. Battery died. I had lunch. I took my car down to the mechanic to get inspected. And now I'm back to actually finish this off. I think I was up to my eyeshadow. That was the next step. The everyday eyeshadow palette I've been using is my very old Too Faced chocolate bar palette. I've had this for like a really long time. I have hit pan on a couple of the shadows on this. I find it's a really nice versatile palette. I don't own a lot of eyeshadow palettes. I've been pretty good over the years to keep my collection quite small. But this one is the one that I've been reaching for in an effort to kind of pan some of these shadows and get some good use out of it. So it's a nice palette. It's a really easy palette to use. I don't find the shadows hard to blend at all. I find them super easy. I know that some people have problems with the formula, but for me, works fine, works good. So that's what I've been using. I'm going to take a bit of like a light warm brown shadow to start with and put that throughout my crease area. I go for a bit of a neutral eye, and to be honest, if I'm going to do eyeshadow, I do tend to go a little more, I guess, all out, if you like, with the way that it looks. So I am doing quite the neutral eye today. I go back and forth and build up the shadow as I go. I try not to get too much pigment straight away, and then slowly build up on my eyelid. I also bring the shadow out quite far. I do like utilizing as much space as possible on my eyelid, seeing as I do have quite hooded eyes. I should say on my brow bone, because I do have quite hooded eyes. Once that color's down and blended in, I'm going to take a slightly darker brown shade and I'm just going to define right through my crease.
And making sure that that's really blended out as well, just to give a little bit of dimension.
I'm going to swap my brush from the fluffy brush that I've been using to something still quite dense but a little bit fluffier for this next shade. I'm going to go in with quite a fair bit of a darker brown. I'm going to go in this shade here from the palette, and what I'm going to do is just put it right on the outer edge of my eye.
This is a nice like satin shade. It does have a bit of shimmer to it, and I really like just putting it on the outside, kind of third, maybe even half of my eye, and I do bring that up into the crease a bit.
If you are struggling to get color out of your shadows, sometimes really stamping them on with the brush before you blend them gets that extra bit of pigment onto your eyelid. Now that I've blended that shadow in the outside edge of my eye, what I'm going to go back in with is a feature shadow, or our inner corner shadow. I go between two shadows for this. I either use the gold in the bottom part of the palette here, which gives a really, really nice bronzy look, or I'll go in with this light shimmery shadow here, which is obviously a little bit brighter and a little bit less of a dark look. Either one I just pop between, depends on really what I'm feeling for the day. I think today I'm gonna go in with the lighter shadow because I have been enjoying using it more recently. And I'm just gonna dip my brush in, going in with a semi-fluffy brush for this one. I'm gonna dip that in and I'm gonna apply it right into that inner portion of my eye. Once that's done, I go back in with just a fluffy brush with no product on it, and I just really kind of blend over the outside of my eye to make sure that there's no kind of harsh lines. That my eyeshadow is complete and I'm happy with the blend and how everything looks. I'm going to move on to the rest of my face. So starting with bronzer, my favorite bronzer that I've been using at the moment is the Too Faced Chocolate Soleil bronzer. I really like this product. It blends out really smoothly on my face and it's a little bit of a warmer bronzer, but I don't mind that for my skin tone. I've got quite a stiff angled brush for this. It's not my favorite bronzer brush, but it's what I've been using and it's working for me. So I'm gonna start by obviously taking some product on my brush, and then I'm gonna stamp that along my cheekbone and then blend out as I'm going. So I'm just gonna go back in and build up that color to bring back some warmth to my face. I am quite pale, so I really don't like using a lot of bronzer because there are times it can pull like very, very yellow on my skin or very, very terracotta, and it can look a little overpowering. But other than that, I do love using some bronzer to make my face a little bit warmer and giving myself a little bit of dimension to my face as well. So I focus on the high points of my face, so anywhere that the sun might naturally hit. So obviously across the top of my forehead, I do it down either side of my nose, I obviously contour under my cheeks, and then I put it a little bit along my jawline as well. Anywhere where the sun would naturally hit my face or I want shadows to be cast on my face. So I'll go ahead and do that. I also like to build up my bronzer, so I won't apply it very heavy straight away. I'll kind of go back in and reuse that stamping motion to obviously apply more product, and then I'll blend it out. And then, as I said, I don't like to contour my nose necessarily, but I will stamp a little bit of that bronzer on either side and just blend it out ever so gently, and a little bit on the bottom. Next step is one of my favorites in my makeup routine, and that is highlighter. I love a good highlight. I just think it brings so much dimension to the face, and again, I've used a lot of powder, so to bring back some of that glow, highlight works really well. I've been using MAC Mineralized Skin Finish in Lightscapade. I really like this highlight. It's quite natural, so it's good for every day. It is not going to give you that super blinding highlight. It can pull a little bit powdery on me sometimes, but I don't particularly mind. I'm totally okay with it. So I go in, I use quite a big kind of fluffy eyeshadow brush for this. It's a little unconventional, but I really like it. I think it allows me to be quite precise with where I place my highlight, while at the same time allowing me to blend it out because it is quite a fluffy brush. So I just take some of this and I apply it to the high points of my face. I do like a fair bit across the top of my cheekbones. Again, it brings back that glow that some of the powder takes out of my face. And it just looks really healthy. You can see it on there, and I think on this side. Just the kind of difference that it makes adding in that highlight. I do put a little bit down my nose. I try not to go too overboard because that is a place that I can get oily throughout the day. I go across the top of my lips, and then I will sometimes do just a little bit right on my temples.
I know some people like to bring their highlight right down over their brow bone, but I get a lot of creasing and wrinkling. I have some very active eyebrows, so I do get a bit of creasing and wrinkling in my foundation here throughout the day. I prefer not to put highlight there because it really draws attention to it. It's just personal preference. Once I've done my highlight, next up is blush. I'm using a couple of different blushes at the moment purely because I'm trying to use one of them up, and that one would be the Tropicoral blush that I got in the set from Benefit. The only thing with this blush is it doesn't give me a lot of color, but it does give me a really nice sheen. So I kind of use this one and I layer it with another one, which I'll show you in a second. Just a bit of a fluffied angle brush for this one. I swirl my brush in the product and then I just apply it right along the apples and the edges of my cheeks. I'm not a huge blush person, so I normally don't go too crazy with it. I much prefer some bronzer and some highlight. And again, a lot of blushes can look very bright on my skin tone, so I kind of have to be careful of that too. But this one does add a nice little bit of color and a nice little bit of sheen to my cheeks as well. When I layer my blush, the second blush I've been using is this top one here. This is a palette from NARS. I believe it's called their Foreplay palette. I'm not sure of this color here. It's quite an old palette. As you can see, this was a highlighter, this was another blush. I've already used both of those up. I am trying to work through this one as well. And to give me that little bit of extra color that I find is lacking from the blush in the Tropicoral set, I just take the tiniest bit of that and I stamp it right on the front part of my cheek. Just like that. Now we've finished with face products. One of the last steps in my makeup routine before I do my lashes and my eyeliner is setting spray. I love setting sprays. I bathe in setting sprays. I will use way too much of this. I don't care. I love it. I think they're great. The one I've been using at the moment is the Glam Glow Glow Setter Makeup Setting Spray. I love this. It is a little bit exy. It's about $50 for this bottle. I have had it for a while though, and I've only used up about a third of it, so you do get some decent value for money with it. This essentially is it's like a hairspray but for your face. I don't know if you guys were around when that became a thing, when people were suggesting using hairspray to lock in your makeup. I guess before setting sprays were really big, but it's kind of like hairspray but for your face in a good way. It kind of really sits on your face and sets everything in, and it's not sticky but you can feel it. But that's what I really like for this setting spray. I have one of the setting sprays coming from Colourpop that I'm really keen to try as well. That's like a dewy hydrating setting spray. The other one that I do really like is the Urban Decay All Nighter, which is a cult classic setting spray. So I use quite a few pumps of this on my face just to set everything. I find it helps everything settle into my skin, and I feel that it just takes off that little bit of powderiness from my face. I'm going to jump off camera. I'm going to do my liner and lashes so I can get in nice and close to a mirror, and I'll be right back. Liner and lashes are done, and this is the finished makeup look. The liner that I've been using recently has been the Master Precise All Day Liner from Maybelline. A good liner. It's got a nice little felt tip on it. It's really easy to control, and it is super dark. I do find it lasts most of the day. The one I've got at the moment is unfortunately running out a little bit, so it does wear off, but you know, it works. It's good. And the mascara I've been using at the moment is the Mako Beauty Extend Lash. My mum actually got this for me as a present, and I have fallen in love with it because it's a tubing mascara. And so what that means is when you go to take it off in the shower, it kind of all comes out off in pieces off your lashes, if that makes sense. It doesn't kind of dissolve and rub off and get everywhere, which is a massive pet peeve of mine. So I've been absolutely loving this, and it looks really good on the eyes as well. So this is the finished makeup. This is what I wear to work when I am gonna put some makeup on my face and I am gonna see clients. I'm gonna zoom you out just a little bit. And yeah, I will try and link a few of the products in the down bar below for you guys. Thank you for watching my video. Thank you for spending some time with me today. I really appreciate it. If you haven't seen it, my first video, the Raw Beauty Kristi Colourpop palette review is up. So that will be in a card up here and also on the end screen for you if you want to watch it. As always, have an amazing day. I hope it's been really great. We're coming up to Christmas, so I hope you're all having a really Merry Christmas and a fantastic end to the year, everything considering. And I will see you next time. Goodbye.